Hey everyone, so now that Luffy has awakened his fruit, gotten Gear 5th, and is pretty much beating Kaido's ass, it looks like he is about to win. Except Luffy is going to lose. Yet again. Now, if you don't want to hear Raid will fail, then fine. Maybe Kaido wins and then like 5-10 chapters later, Luffy is back up again and fighting. But the point is, Luffy is definitely losing this round. Why is that? Well, because everything in the story right now seems to be framing this battle as Kaido's time to get his big win. Now, you might be saying that doesn't make any sense. Didn't Kaido already beat Luffy? Doesn't it look like all the momentum is on Luffy's side? Well, stick with me, and I'll explain why all of this is about to be flipped on its head. Because right now, we are reading the setup for Kaido to defeat Joy Boy. And before we get into that, make sure to subscribe. And just like Luffy is becoming the best version of himself, so too can you become the best version of yourself with Keeps, the sponsor for this video. Look, if you're a guy, you're probably worried about hair loss. And if you're not worried, then you should be, because 2 out of 3 men will experience hair loss by the time they're 35. Now, I'm obviously not worried because I have Keeps. Keeps is clinically proven to not only stop hair loss, but actually promote hair growth. And the best part is, you don't have to go to a doctor's office or pharmacy. Keeps treatments are actually delivered straight to your door. And when you order Keeps, you're not just getting the treatment, you get access to 24/7 consultation with Keeps' medical advisors, prescribers, and hair care specialists who can advise you on your ideal hair treatment plan to make sure that you're always doing the right thing for your hair. So if you want to keep a luscious head of hair, if you want to stop yourself from going bald, then hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/Morge or click the link in the description below. That's keeps.com/Morge. So lost in all of this hype of how crazy Luffy is going is Kaido's story. That is the most important missing piece here. Most everything that needed to be set up for Luffy has been set up. He's gotten his big power-up, he's fighting literally at his peak, he has boundless, overflowing confidence and optimism, he's made his speech already about how he's going to do this for Momo and Tama and Kinemon, etc., and he says he's ready to end it all. That's the thing. We got all of Luffy's stuff all set up a bit prematurely, because everything that's left from here on is basically the Kaido show. Everything that we have been waiting on up till now is Kaido's motivations, the final reveal of Kaido's character, his flashback, his awakening, and his true goal in Wano, because his true goal in Wano has been built up for a long time, and somehow is still yet to be revealed. Meaning that from here on, all the focus is going to be on Kaido. Kaido is set to be the star of the final act of this battle. Right now, he has actually momentarily become the underdog, fighting against an overwhelmingly strong opponent. But he still has his own flashback and his major power-up with his awakening to be revealed. And most importantly, the pieces that have been hinted at for Kaido's flashback all actually seem to point to his life story, potentially leading up to this moment. So let me take 10 steps back and explain. This following section will be a little speculative, but the overall argument does not hinge on it. I just think it's important to discuss this before getting into the main argument. Here are the pieces of Kaido's backstory that we know of. In Kaido's younger days, there was a point where he was a different man, bright-eyed and full of spirit, seemingly much like he has said Luffy is today. And at this point in time, he was already interested in the idea of Joy Boy. He himself seemed to be a potential candidate for that role. However, the Kaido that came to Wano was no longer that same man. Something had changed during this period between meeting King and coming to Wano. Kaido in Wano is no longer the bright-eyed, optimistic young man he once was. The Kaido we see in Oden's flashback is pretty much the same as the Kaido we see today. An angry, violent pirate obsessed with the idea of death, to the point that today he is actually suicidal. So what made him lose the light in his eyes between the time he met King and the time he came to Wano? Well, we have good reason to believe that it may be due to him realizing at some point that he could not in fact be Joy Boy, as implied by his quote to Luffy. This is further supported by the fact that Kaido specifically came to Wano for a yet-to-be-revealed reason. he clearly establishes that there is something extremely important about him being here. So, tracking back, we have young Kaido, who had a brighter, more joyful personality. This can, in fact, even be traced back to his days at Rocks. And he also had a bright light in his eyes, much like Luffy. So something at some point changed, and then he decided that he needed to be in Wano for some particular reason. Now, we do know a particular reason that Wano is so important, the same reason that Oden and Roger realized that Joy Boy would one day return to Wano. They knew that this nation had to be opened specifically because Joy Boy would one day be here. So again, we're tracking the story for Kaido here. At a young age, Kaido seems to have Joy Boy-like qualities, to the point that it is suggested that he could be Joy Boy himself. After some yet-to-be-revealed incident, Kaido's personality changes, and he chooses to go to Wano and set up shop there for some specific reason. He also likely no longer seems to believe that he himself could be Joy Boy, meaning, as my regular stream viewer Behenort suggested to me, that Kaido may be in Wano because he too knew that Joy Boy would one day come there, or perhaps that Joy Boy would one day awaken there. So young Kaido seems Joy Boy-esque in many ways, seems to entertain the idea of being Joy Boy himself. At some point, something happens, something Oda does not want to reveal yet, a flip is switched and Kaido becomes a different person, and strangely decides to take over Wano country, a country where it is prophesied Joy Boy will come to. I don't think it's a stretch to say that Kaido may have realized he is not Joy Boy, and then gone to Wano specifically to wait for Joy Boy. And if you don't believe me, well seriously, go back and read all of Kaido's pieces of dialogue so far, because it's not just that Kaido is interested in Wano for some specific reason, Kaido is specifically enslaving the people of Wano for some important reason. There is an actual mysterious purpose that Kaido has for deliberately taking away their freedom that he refused to explain. And how exactly did Joy Boy end up returning? What caused Luffy to awaken the Nika fruit and take up the mantle of Joy Boy? The drums of liberation. The trigger behind all of this was the drive to free the people of Wano, to free them from Kaido's enslavement. That was ultimately the key. It seems very possible that Kaido knew where Joy Boy would return, and he knew what it would take to bring him out, the drive to free the people of Wano from enslavement. And that also explains all of Kaido's interactions with Luffy from start to finish throughout the Onigashima battle. The excitement at the potential he began to see in Luffy, the disappointment when he thinks Luffy could not be Joy Boy, the repeated interest in the light in Luffy's eyes, the same light Kaido once had when he himself believed he could be Joy Boy. And lastly, this exchange regarding laughter. Some unexplained hint Kaido is dropping here about the importance of laughter. I think Kaido wanted to face Joy Boy, and not only does he want to face Joy Boy, he may have lived the entire last 20 years, specifically trying to bring out Joy Boy, going to the land that it was prophesied that Joy Boy would return to, a land that he confirmed he was in for some specific important reason, taking over and enslaving its people, also for some important mysterious reason, possibly all to bring out Joy Boy. Now, I can't guess the full reason why Kaido wants to face Joy Boy. If I had to speculate as to why, I would say that based on what we know of Kaido, he is, above all else, hunting for a great battle. He was robbed of one with Oden, he was heartbroken when he thought he was robbed again with Luffy, he believes he has no equal in this world, so Joy Boy may be an important goal for some battle-related reason. So as much as everything happening right now seems to be a triumphant wave of victory for Luffy, I think first of all, it is very likely that this flashback that Oda has been holding onto for Kaido will reveal that much of this was in fact exactly what Kaido dreamed of. Now, the two natural objections are, first of all, is any of that speculation even correct? And second, even if it is correct, why would that mean that Kaido actually gets what he wants and defeats Luffy? So to the first point, even if you don't believe any of that speculation I just dropped, it doesn't really matter, as the fact still remains that Oda has been hiding a lot of Kaido's true goals, motivations, and past, and continually saving his backstory for a reason. I just personally think we can piece together a picture that indicates that a lot of what is happening right now may turn out to be exactly what Kaido wanted, but sure, that doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't change the fact that narratively, all character focus is about to shift over to Kaido, and we are about to get a very important backstory out of him. So second point, why does the character focus shifting over to Kaido frame Kaido as the winner? Because again, look at everything we have gotten out of Luffy. We got the big power-up. We have him fighting supposedly at his peak. Absolute overflowing confidence. He's made his bold promises, basically announced his victory. We've pretty much gotten everything out of Luffy, and he's winning the fight now. And now, and only now, are we about to shift over and get Kaido's backstory and his awakening. It is Kaido's story and Kaido's motivations that are being saved for the climax of the battle, not Luffy's. It is Kaido's final power-up that is being saved for the climax of the battle, not Luffy's. That frames Kaido as the likely winner, as that order of events essentially frames Kaido as the protagonist of this fight. Normally, if the villain were to lose here, then naturally the villain would get his backstory first, establish who he is as a villain, complete his motivations, put a bow on his master plan, his true goal, etc., likely even have him get the upper hand on the protagonist. And then you have the protagonist come back with the big power-up, with the renewed confidence, with the big speeches, with the turning of the tables, and so on. But the order in which Oda is choosing to focus on the characters, that is backwards here. The fact that Luffy got his awakening and all his hype and his motivations and declarations before Kaido finally gets his backstory and finally breaks out his trump card is not a good sign for Luffy, in my opinion. Especially if Kaido's backstory is revealed to be, as speculated, a tragic backstory of how he learned that he could not be Joy Boy, spent the last 20 years as a drunken failure waiting on Joy Boy, all this time unable to get the proper battle and victory that he craved, a failure that he experienced with Oden and yet again with Luffy, all leading up to finally this opportunity to face the man he always wanted to face, and actually getting that big win that he has been denied for so long. And that is a huge factor here as well. Kaido's story in One Piece so far is defined by his failure to achieve a true victory. No, I'm not talking about beating up the scabbards and that shit. I'm not even talking about the first couple rounds with Luffy. Those were meaningless to Kaido. We know that when it comes to the battles that matter, the battles that he actually takes pride in, Kaido has yet to actually get a true win. That has been the defining failure for him so far. And it is very, very clear that he feels this way. That is why Oda wrote in the flashback to Oden, as Kaido was once again robbed of a meaningful win during his battle with Luffy, as a reminder that this has been a recurring pattern for Kaido throughout his life. As such, what it looks like to me is at the moment we're getting the flow of the story in this manner, of Luffy getting all of his power-ups, his hype, his declarations, before we finally switch over to focus on Kaido, before we get Kaido's flashback, precisely because we are about to learn the story of a man who all his life was seeking this very battle against this caliber of opponent, and who so far has been defined by repeatedly failing to get a true victory against an equal, all leading up to this moment where he finally succeeds. Kaido, as a villain so far, has been defined by failure, and a villain defined by failure does not make for a great final boss. No matter how strong they technically are, if they are repeatedly portrayed as failing to succeed when it matters. But that makes sense if Oda is writing Kaido's life story to culminate in this moment of victory that he has been chasing. That is why it was so important that Oda denied Kaido an actual legitimate victory against Luffy in Gear 4th. Normally, the villain would defeat the protagonist straight up in the penultimate round. That is what establishes that final grand dramatic threat of the villain for the finale, before having the protagonist come back stronger and turn the tables. But Oda did not write it like that this time. He wrote the villain's victory as deliberately hollow, explicitly hollow. He wrote it like it was a moment of failure and shame for Kaido. Kaido very clearly knows that he did not earn this win. He did not prove himself superior to Luffy. That makes sense if Oda is setting Kaido up to redeem himself against a stronger version of Luffy, making for the most dramatic villain victory possible. And this setup especially makes sense if you consider Kaido's other primary motivation, which is to break people's spirits. That is Kaido and the Beast Pirates' ultimate MO. They want to break spirits, Wano in general has had a running theme of strength of spirit and testing of spirit. Now, you might say, hasn't Kaido tested Luffy's spirit enough? Luffy has lost plenty of times, right? Well, I'm not talking about Luffy's spirit here. The major recurring idea throughout Wano, and really throughout the raid specifically, has been faith in Luffy, and Kaido's attempts to break that faith. Multiple times now, we've had the Alliance get news of Luffy's defeat, but neither time has Kaido quite gotten the reaction he wanted. Why is that? Well, this was the key line that Kaido himself established early on. The Alliance will never really lose hope unless they actually see it for themselves. That is important. That was an established point, that anything less than that probably won't do the trick. And guess what? Kaido is proven right both times. Both times he announces Luffy's defeat, it's not enough. There are still characters that don't believe him, meaning they have not yet been given a true test of spirit. Kaido has yet to present them with what he believes will actually break their spirit. It's already established in story that a mere announcement of Luffy's defeat would not be enough to make everyone lose hope, and that is shown to be true twice. But as we know in storytelling, third time's the charm. So the one thing Oda has yet to actually do is have the Alliance see a defeated Luffy. And that is precisely why Oda did not have Kaido bring down the supposedly dead body of Luffy after he beat him in Gear 4th. It was established that that was the one thing Kaido would really need to do to truly try and break their spirits, but Oda did not have Kaido do it yet, obviously because Kaido himself did not take pride in that victory. So basically everything about the manner in which Kaido defeated Gear 4th Luffy suggests that Kaido's true climactic victory is yet to come. Kaido did not win in the way that he wanted. He did not win in a way that proved him superior, and he did not bother to bring Luffy's body down to try and break the Alliance's spirits like he previously said he would. So basically there's still this major piece left in this battle, that on the Alliance's end, their faith in Luffy needs to be actually tested in the manner that Kaido said would supposedly break their spirits, actually seeing a defeated Luffy. And that fits perfectly with the setup that Kaido has yet to get his big win. A win that he may have been waiting on for decades, a win that has eluded him for so long. Not to mention, the desire to break Luffy's spirit lines up with Oda having Luffy awaken into a state where he is literally at his peak. He is at absolute confidence and in the highest spirits imaginable. And with the flow of the battle currently setting Luffy up as this unstoppable force right now, but still leading to Kaido's dramatic backstory and the unveiling of Kaido's own final trump card, his awakening, I think we are set to see everything come together. With Kaido getting his great victory that he's been robbed of repeatedly, having his story come full circle, we get to see Luffy crushed when his spirit is at its absolute highest, and we get to see how the Alliance, and particularly the Straw Hats, react when they're given the true test of spirit that Kaido hinted at, whether or not they will still believe in Luffy when they actually see his defeated body in front of them. And if you're complaining that that would make Wano too long, as a quick reminder, we still have unresolved plot points of Nirai Kitetsu, Ami no Habakiri, Zoro's Shimatsuki heritage, the man Hitetsu is waiting for, the man Crocus was drinking with, the Kakeshi dolls, Hawkins' 1 month timeline, Wano's hidden gold, what Onigashima is, and many other potential unresolved points. So if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.